Here we go. All righty. Well, thank you guys for coming to our gut health webinar. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, gut health. And, I view the gut as a glorious thing, and most people probably don't. And hopefully that is Jenny joining us. Just make sure. Yes, Jenny. Awesome. So she's just connecting to audio. Welcome, Jenny. So for those of you that don't know us, let me introduce, first of all, Jane Toohey. So Jane's the founder of Haven Yoga and Meditation Studio. I'm Marcia Davidson, founder of Kickstart Your Wellness and the 21-Day Metabolism and Gut Reset. And before we get into our gut stuff, we'll just tell you a little bit about ourselves first, just so you know who we are. Some of you know us, some of you don't, particularly for those watching the replay. So let me get my slides going. So I'm pretty much like all of you guys. I'm on the go all the time. I have a fabulous hubby of 32 years. I've got a very boisterous German Shepherd puppy and 2 maniac cats who may or may not pay us a visit. They generally jump up on the keyboard whenever I'm on a screen. I run 2 businesses. So I'm a certified nutrition health coach, which is why I love gut health. I'm a doTERRA essential oils educator, and I'm just generally a foodie. Plus, I manage a pay-by-the-hour offshore marketing company, so my life is never dull. The trick is really trying to find the right balance, and it wasn't always that way. These days, I try to find lines some days between finding that balance, but in a past life, I was a corporate workaholic, which, as you would expect, impacted my health. I had really bad habits. Eventually, my body decided that enough was enough. And it gave me a pretty serious health wake-up call. So I had digestive issues, I had high blood pressure, I had mood swings, weight gain, constant allergies. I caught every single thing that went around. My immune system was pretty much just tanked. So I discovered the power of nutrition, of essential oils, both of which are plants. So it's Mother Nature's remedies. I cleaned up my diet, focused on my gut health, lowered my toxic load within our household. So you'll hear me talking about toxins and going low tox. And I adopted healthier lifestyle habits. And what do you know? I lost weight. My blood pressure went back to normal. And I'm actually now healthier over 50 than I've ever been in my life. So since then, I've basically just been on this progressive journey of natural healing. I became a health coach so that I can help you guys do the same thing. And I offer individual group coaching. I do a range of gut health programs. I offer free essential workshops here in Ipswich and also starting in Murray. So I tell people, just think of me like your wellness planner instead of your party planner. I show you how to use nutrition and healthy lifestyle habits to improve your gut health and your overall well-being. So I'll hand over to Jane.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I have a company called Haven Yoga Meditation, which is a studio in Murray in Brisbane, but I also do online meditation courses and all sorts of things online. I also have a marketing company, which is called Outsourced to Us, and it's an outsourced marketing team, a plug-in marketing team. So I'm a certified level 2 yoga teacher, meditation teacher. I am certified to teach kids, but it's the hardest thing in the world, teaching yoga to little ones. So I don't do that too often. And I like Marcia, I'm absolutely passionate about our ability to heal ourselves through nutrition, through meditation, and through a regular practice of yoga. So I guide people through those different practices of meditation and find different ways to help us with our concentration and our memory retention, and most importantly with stress management, because stress is the thing that can really impact your gut. And I know that Marcia's going to talk about the physiological side of that. Absolutely. And I'll talk a little bit about how we might manage some of our stress through yoga and meditation.
Yeah. Thanks, Jane. So tonight I'm going to talk I'll talk a lot actually about the gut. So I'm going to introduce you to the structure and the function of the gut. So what it is, why it's so important. I'll talk about some of the common drivers that can affect your gut health. and that can lead to gut dysfunction. And then Jane and I'll both provide you with some helpful tips to better look after your gut and some options that you can use straight away, and also some things you can do in future. So anybody that knows me or has ever been to a webinar will know that one of my favorite sayings is that good health begins in your gut. And if your gut is not happy, then the rest of you is not either. And I mean that literally, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's well known that an unhappy gut will affect your health way beyond your digestive system, because most of us think about our gut as, digesting our food. It can lead to autoimmunity issues. It can lead to weight gain. It can contribute to all types of inflammation, to allergies. So guess what? I used to have really bad allergies. I looked after my gut. I don't have those allergies anymore, or very rarely. It can affect your nervous system, your cardiovascular system. It can affect your mental, your emotional health. Of course, it can lead to nutrient deficiencies and so many other things. Now, obviously, we're not going to talk about everything tonight, because otherwise we'll be here for like a year. And I promised Jane that I will try and stick to my times. So before I go any further, I do want to share a little story with you about the power of the gut, because your gut does rule your world. So one day, the body organs got together and they decided to have a board meeting. And here's what went on behind closed doors. There was an intense discussion to determine who was the most important organ of the body. The brain was the first to speak. Without me, nothing would be accomplished. The heart spoke up. Well, without me pumping blood to the brain, you couldn't function. The arms laughed. They said, you're both wrong. Without me to put food in the mouth, nothing would work. So then the stomach said, well, without me, your food wouldn't digest. Then the lungs bellowed back. Without us, you wouldn't be able to breathe. The eyes blinked and they said, well, without us, you couldn't see. The kidneys snorted. Without me, you couldn't detoxify and eliminate. And then the colon meekly spoke up and said, I'm important. You need me to eliminate all the garbage from your systems. Now, everybody laughed, made fun of him. How can you be as important as we are? You're just a smelly old sewer. And the poor colon, his feelings were hurt. He turned away and he thought, well, I'll show them. And he shut down. So then he sat back and he watched and he waited to see what would happen. The brain was stupefied. The heart's beat was weak and irregular. The arms were weak. They couldn't move. The lungs gave in to shallow breathing. The eyes became clouded. The kidneys quit. The colon looked around and decided it was time to call another meeting. Now, this meeting wasn't too lively, but everyone was in total agreement. The colon was the most important organ. So that's our gut story, and I'll refer back to that in a little while. But let's talk about what is the gut. So the gut actually refers to your digestive tract or your gastrointestinal tract, commonly known as the GI tract, which is essentially a continuous long tube that runs from your mouth down to your anus. So it helps break down food into smaller molecules and nutrients that are carried throughout the body and that are used by your cells for growth, energy, and repair, because like Jane said, we are designed to be self-healing creatures if we give our bodies the chance. So the gut is separated into 4 different areas: the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. And each of those have different functions. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those functions. First of all, I want you guys to pop in the chat. I need to open my chat so I can see it. Anybody want to hazard a guess at how long you think your gut is? Or yell it out either which way. We don't have too many people online.
35 meters.
How much?
35.
So we've got 35 meters. We've got 15.3. Any other takers?
Maybe 8.5.
Yep. Anybody else want to say anything? All right. So it is actually 8.5 meters. And here's a fun fact for you. If you think about the size of a tennis court, like what's on my screen, The surface area of the intestines alone, if laid out, whoops, sorry, went the wrong way. The surface area alone would actually cover 2 whole tennis courts. Now, you think about all of that fitting inside of our body really is truly amazing. So what's actually inside your gut? So the inner lining of the digestive tract is a mucous membrane, much like the cells inside of your mouth. And this mucous membrane is selectively permeable, and that means that it will allow some things to pass through. So for example, water and nutrients, because that's how we actually absorb our nutrients. Now, located mainly in the large intestine is a complex ecosystem of bacteria and other microbes that we commonly refer to as microbiota or your microbiome. You've probably heard that term quite a lot. And that plays a vital role in digestion and your overall health. And you may have heard about the diversity of plant life, say in the Amazon. Well, that is absolutely nothing compared to your gut microbiome. Your microbiome has over 100 trillion essential and healthy microbes called probiotics, right? So that term should be familiar. That's more than your entire body's cells all up. So realistically, you're just a host for all of these bacteria. In fact, there's more bacteria in your gut than there are stars in our Milky Way galaxy. So that's a cosmic amount of gut bugs. Now, you acquire most of these organisms at birth, and it's one of the ways that your mother's health status at birth directly affects yours. Over time, the diversity of species in your microbiome will change based on your lifestyle. So it can be affected by things like what you eat, what you put in your mouth, environmental toxins, of course, stress levels, which Jane's going to cover off, I think, in more detail as will I. Pharmaceutical drugs, antibiotic use, alcohol, basically lifestyle. So when the composition of your gut microbiota becomes imbalanced, we call this dysbiosis. And it's really important to have a diverse range of bacteria in your gut, because the greater the diversity, the better your overall gut function and your immune health. So while some people think of the gut, and in the gut story, we talked about the garbage or the sewer, some people do think of the gut as nothing more than a garbage chute. It actually has many roles, and it collectively will impact every other part of your body, as was illustrated in the gut story. So it's particularly closely associated with the nervous and the cardiovascular system. It breaks down the food that you eat, and it helps you absorb the nutrients needed for energy and mood. Now, approximately 80% of your white blood cells, aka your immune system, lives in and around your gut. So it makes sense when you think about your gut being an easy access for harmful microbes to be able to enter your body, because you're always putting things down it. Another really exciting function of the gut is its role in your mood and brain function. So people say, well, you know, how can my gut actually affect my mood? Well, the gut is actually considered now as the body's second brain. It produces neurotransmitters, and it sends important signals back and forth to your brain through the vagus nerve. Now, this is called the gut-brain connection. So have you guys ever had like that gut feeling about something? That's just not a saying. That is actually a real phenomenon. And I always tell my clients, just never ignore your gut. If you get a gut feeling, then there's a reason for it. Basically, your gut and your brain are like BFFs. They chat all the time. It's like having a direct hotline to your brain, and it's a two-way conversation. So not only does the brain influence your gut, but the gut can directly influence the brain at all. And I'll give you a couple of examples of this. So stress and anxiety, right? I'm sure we've all felt it. It can make your stomach churn, make you feel nauseous. It can give you instant diarrhea. So that's your head talking to your gut. Another common example is that when you look at IBS, so irritable bowel syndrome, that can actually lead to something called irritable brain syndrome, which is commonly experienced as anxiety and depression. So that's just a testament to just how powerful the gut is in influencing our moods and emotions. One of the reasons that happens is that almost 100% of your body's serotonin, which is your happy hormone, is actually made in your gut. And it's about 95% from the building blocks that you consume in your diet. So low serotonin levels are closely associated with depression and sleep disorders. So it's really important that you watch, I guess, what you put into your body that creates those building blocks and that helps you produce that serotonin. So talking about building blocks, each time you eat, your gut is actually breaking that food down into building blocks that are going to help repair your body. So that means that every time you eat, that's an opportunity for you to nourish your cells and body. Ideally, if your gut is healthy, you would absorb all of the nutrients in your food, you would decommission all of the harmful microscopic invaders, and you would quickly eliminate toxins and waste. Now, sometimes things do go wrong, and tonight I'm going to talk about just 2 common conditions that I see a lot. There's obviously a lot of different gut health issues and gut concerns. I'm just going to talk about 2 simple ones. So earlier I mentioned that dysbiosis occurs when there's an imbalance in the levels of good and bad microbiota in the microbiome. So ideally, we should probably have about 85% good bacteria and 15% bad bacteria as a good balance. As I mentioned briefly, a number of factors can lead to dysbiosis, things like poor dietary choices, lots of antibiotics, stress, absolutely, too much alcohol, environmental toxins, just to name a few. And you may also recall that I mentioned earlier that mucosal membrane that's on the inside of our gut that is selectively permeable. So that means that it allows water and certain nutrients across the membrane into the bloodstream, but not other things. So that kind of brings me to another gut issue that's quite common, and that's called leaky gut. Have you guys ever heard of leaky gut? Just want to know. Hey, Steph. Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have leaky gut that they know of?
No.
Okay.
No, and I hadn't heard of it.
Cool. All right. Well, leaky gut, leaky gut occurs when the tight junctions of the mucosal membrane becomes damaged and they become less selective about what it lets through the intestinal wall, and that the tight junctions of your gut wall lining become inflamed and leaky. So they kind of let things through that shouldn't get through, because remember, we should only be letting water and nutrients through. So we now know that leaky gut is a precondition for developing autoimmune diseases. So an autoimmune disease are conditions where your body's immune system mistakenly attacks its own tissues and organs instead of invaders like bacteria and viruses. And when you consider that about 80% of your immune system is living in and around your gut, of course, it makes sense that there's a strong relationship with autoimmunity. That means that your food choices can make a huge difference on how your immune system functions. So another one of my favorite quotes is, and I can't claim this one, with every mouthful, you are either fighting disease or you're feeding disease. So I love that, because it's, we have a choice of what we put in our mouth. Now, conditions like ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, Hashimoto's, RA, rheumatoid arthritis, things like that are really good examples of autoimmune issues or diseases. And without fails, one of the biggest triggers is an immune system that's gone haywire, basically, and that's being constantly triggered and confused, potentially by just inflammatory foods that we consume daily. So when I say it's important what you put in your mouth, that's why. So there are 6 common causes of leaky gut. And of course, number 1, diet. So things like inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, nightshades, corn. There's a whole range of foods that can be inflammatory, red meat even. Microbial infections, things like parasites, viruses, bacteria, and yeast. Drugs, so antibiotics, antacids, steroids, NSAIDs, which is like ibuprofen, anti-inflammatory, over-the-counter things. All of these, if you use them long-term, will lead to damage to your gut. stress hormones. You know, we mentioned stress on pretty much every other slide. Cortisol and adrenaline in particular. Toxins from mercury, BPA. Like, it's not that long ago that we used to have BPA in all of our water bottles, in, you know, all our Tupperware plastic used to have BPA in it. Pesticides. So if you're not buying organic veggies, then chances are you're getting pesticides, potentially GMOs, things like that in your foods. And of course, dysbiosis. If we literally just have an imbalance in our gut bacteria, it could be just from being sick and having a round of antibiotics. If we have that imbalance of good to bad bacteria, that can also cause leaky gut or trigger it over time. So how do you know if you suffer from dysbiosis or leaky gut or something else? Well, some common signs and symptoms are, of course, digestive issues. So things like bloating, gas, IBS, abdominal discomfort, cramps, anything like that. Funky bathroom habits, diarrhea sometimes, constipation sometimes. Food intolerances is usually a good hint. The thing is a lot of times people don't really realize that they have a food intolerance. They're getting the symptoms, but they haven't put it down to that yet. They haven't tested that. Brain fog, which is difficulty concentrating and making decisions. Have you guys ever sat there and been looking at your screen or at a book or something, and you find yourself reading and rereading the same thing, like over and over again? That generally would be due to brain fog, because you're just not really concentrating. Fatigue is a symptom, of course. Urinary and yeast infections. So candida, for example, if your bacteria are not balanced in your gut, it actually creates an ideal environment for candida overgrowth. And we all have candida in our gut, but or we all have yeast in our gut. But when it gets overgrown, it helps those bad bacteria take over. Mood imbalances. So when we get anxiety, depression, mood swings, you know, we already talked about 100% or 95% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. If our gut's not working properly, we're not getting enough happy hormones. Obviously, that's going to affect our moods. Skin issues are a really good sign or a good symptom that something might be going on with your gut. Acne, eczema, rosacea, psoriasis, just to name a few. Of course, hay fever, allergies, asthma. I talked about that earlier. That was my thing. And obviously, if you get a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease, you know, IBD, RA, Hashimoto's, psoriasis, lupus, you know, there's a whole range of those things. So these can be common symptoms that something's going on with your gut. So after going through all those things, it's pretty clear that, you know, your gut really does deserve the best from you. And if you care for it, you will be literally the best version of yourself. So has anybody got any questions or anything so far before we start talking about some of the things you can do to actually love on your gut? Everybody's quiet. Okie dokie. So I'm going to run through a few simple things that you can start doing today to have a happy and healthy gut, and that will automatically start to boost your overall well-being. And then we'll talk about some other options, and Jane's going to kick in with some special stuff for us as well. So repairing your gut can make a huge difference to virtually every part of your body. You'll feel better. You'll think better. That's getting rid of that brain fog. You'll have better mood. You'll have way more energy, and you will sleep better. And as a side benefit, you may even shed a bit of weight if that's a goal for you, because that's what inflammation can actually cause you to hold on to your weight. Now, the first thing that I'm going to say that we need to do, and it's probably one of the most important steps, is basically to eliminate gut irritating foods, things that can damage your gut. For example, gluten, dairy, refined sugars, alcohol, processed foods, even some fruit and veg, soy, corn, nightshades. So nightshades are things like tomatoes, eggplants, white potatoes, you know, healthy in their own right. But for some people, it's actually toxic for their system because they're sensitive to it. So I run a regular gut reset, which I'll talk about in a little while, that does exactly this. And it helps you eliminate the foods and try and figure out if you have food intolerances. Then after you do that kind of elimination and you figure out and you think, yeah, I think I might have some food intolerances and I can't quite tell, which ones they are. There are food intolerance tests that you can actually get done. Generally, they're a blood test. There are some here in Australia that you can get. There's a couple of different companies that do them, and it's basically an at-home lab test. You take a prick of blood, send it back to the lab, and they try and help you identify all of them. I generally use that as the second resort. I think it's better trying to actually do it through your diet first and figuring out, because 9 times out of 10, like if you're sensitive to something, you'll know when you eliminate it and then when you add it back in. So if your gut is struggling, 9 times out of 10, gluten has something to do with it. That's one of the first things that I recommend that my clients eliminate from their diet, just to see how they react and feel. Today, and it's not everybody, but millions of people suffer from gluten sensitivities or intolerance. So like I can have gluten just fine, but if I have it every day, I get the same symptoms as somebody that would be sensitive to it. I'd get bloating, gas, stuff like that. If I have it once a week, I'm fine. Twice a week's fine. So it really depends on, we're all individual. It depends on the person, but it is one of the top offenders for a leaky gut. It causes the gut cells to release something called zonulin, which is a protein that breaks apart the tight junctions in your intestinal lining, i.e. causes leaky gut. So as I mentioned, once foreign particles enter your bloodstream, your immune system then marks them as foreign invaders, as pathogens, and starts attacking them. So for chronic gut issues, I probably would also I would recommend getting tested for any chronic gut infections. So testing for things like parasites, bacteria, candida, like most people generally will know if they've got a big candida issue, or even SIBO infections. And of course, I'm going to say, the first thing I will always say is eat more nutrient-dense foods. The easiest way to do that is basically whole foods, fruit, veg, nuts and seeds, eggs and meat, just basically avoiding things that have been highly processed. Bone broths and collagen can be another great way of getting high quality amino acids into your diet. And these actually can help seal the leaks in the gut by repairing damaged cells and building new tissue. So there's something good to add into your diet. So I know a couple of the people on the call here are starting to use a product called MetaPower by doTERRA, and that is actually some of these collagen, a whole bunch of this. So that hopefully will help with some of those things. So stress. Stress is the devil. When the body is stressed, it can't detox and it can't function properly. So stress raises your cortisol and your insulin levels, and that results in blood sugar imbalances, hormonal issues, weight gain, and toxicity overload. And stress itself, I view as the biggest toxin in this world, because when you're stressed out, your gut lining becomes inflamed, and that causes disruptions in your microbiome. And of course, when you have that disruption in your microbiome, then that affects your moods, your immune system, everything else. So learning simple tools to reduce and manage your stress is essential for all functions of your body. Now, chronic stress is kind of interesting. And quite honestly, I think the majority of people in our world these days are in a state of chronic stress. And Jane will talk about this, I'm sure. But high levels of stress actually reduce the good bacteria in your gut. But on the converse side of that, the low levels of good bacteria, so it's reduced your good bacteria, but then that helps the bad bacteria grow even more because there's less good bacteria. That can trigger a stress response in itself. So you get this vicious cycle. And all of the whole time, your gut is kind of just declining in terms of its balance. So some of the things that are easy to do, probiotics. So you can get more probiotics into your body through probiotic-rich foods and or supplementation, and I'd recommend both. Probiotics, so the beneficial bacteria that reside in your gut, remember those healthy bacteria, they help maintain its health, so we need to give them as much TLC as possible. And along with promoting your digestive health, probiotics also strengthen the functioning of your immune system. They help you maintain your balance in your gut flora. They're great for skin, allergies, asthma. They help with nutrient absorption. They help manage mood disorders. They support weight loss and maintenance. And they help keep you regular, if you know what I mean, to make sure that you're actually detoxifying properly every day. Now, of course, you can incorporate cultured foods into your diet, fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi. Now, pickled foods are not the same. They don't have the same health benefits. So fermented foods are naturally enriched by the fermentation process with beneficial bacteria. So they're loaded with probiotics. And of course, there's a number of different ranges of probiotic supplements. I use doTERRA's PB Assist, which is what you see on the screen. The reason I do that is that it has probiotics and prebiotics in it. So speaking of prebiotics, and I'm going to run through this stuff pretty quickly because I want to make sure that I don't go over time. Prebiotics actually support your probiotics in your gut. So they nourish the good bacteria that you have in your gut. So you really do, you should add them as part of your diet and also as part of supplementation. So there's some good food sources on the screen there for you. I'll actually be sending out some of this info along with the replay. And if you prefer supplements, again, I use PB Assist, but of course there's a whole range of products in the market out there. You really cannot afford to let your digestive system get compromised. So on the screen, and I won't go through all of these are some really easy ways that you can actually help your digestive system. So Gandhi said a good quote: chew your drink and drink your food. The more you chew your food, the more it starts the digestive process in your mouth. And fiber is so important. Most Australians don't get enough fiber in our diet because we don't eat enough fruit and veg. If you're not having, I think it's at the moment, I think the recommendation is like 5 serves of fruit and veg a day of different things. If you're not having enough fruit and veg, then your toxins and things don't get pushed out of your body and detoxified. Being hydrated also helps with that. It helps things push out of your body. And the other things are straightforward, healthy habits. So supplements, I always recommend supplementation. I was very anti-supplements for a while, and people say to me, well, do I really need supplements? Unfortunately, our produce, the food that we eat, is not as nutrient dense as what it once was. And there's a whole bunch of studies about that. In some cases, up to 70, 80% less nutrient dense than it was even just 50 years ago. An orange is nowhere near, I can't remember the numbers, it was like 50% or something less than what my grandparents ate, the nutrition in an orange. So supplements basically just help you double down on the health benefits of what you're actually eating, and they make sure that you get enough vitamins and minerals to support a healthy body as you age.
Marcia, there's just a quick question. Would a greens powder help if you're not getting enough veg?
It will help from the vitamin perspective. It won't help from the fiber perspective. You would need to actually have fiber powder. So doTERRA has both in terms of like the product range, and there's other products out there, of course. But yeah, you would need to actually have the fiber powder. Some of the products, so some protein powders will already have fiber added to them. So there are other ways of getting fiber in without just having a fiber, product. But sometimes the quickest, easiest thing is just to get a fiber powder, because you just mix it up, add it to a smoothie, done and dusted. But yeah, no, it's not the same thing. But good question. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are exposed to toxins every single day, and toxins cause inflammation in our gut. And these toxins actually get stored in our fat cells, which is not what we want. So when I talk about when we do a gut reset and we actually want to detoxify our toxins or get rid of the toxins from our body, that's why in a lot of cases people do literally just shed weight, because your body doesn't need to hold it anymore. And of course, we get toxins from the environment, we get toxins from the products we use at home, from the foods that we eat, and I use, obviously, and I teach how to use essential oils because they're pure plant. It's 100% concentrated plant. Our bodies know what to do with it, and they work at a cellular level. And we can use oils for stress. We can use oils for sleep. We can use oils to increase our motivation to exercise. All of these things are great for gut health, and they're really easy to integrate into a preventive routine. And I think my cat's going to pay us a visit. So I'm going to hand over to Jane now. Oh, you're on mute, Jane.
One of the ways that we can help with stress, which is yoga and meditation. So as Marcia mentioned, stress has a major impact on the gut. So when there's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. With the sympathetic nervous system, that's the one that goes into play if you're running away from a lion or need to get away from something quick. And that's fine. And you know, we need the sympathetic nervous system. But if the sympathetic nervous system is constantly on, and we're constantly in that state of stress, what happens in the body is a continual production of a hormone called cortisol. This basically, rather not getting in too much of the science, but when it gets into the gut, that's what creates the upset in the gut. That's one of the things that contributes to that overproduction of cortisol in the body. So you need to, by using things like yoga and meditation, you can slow down that production of cortisol. Yoga also helps with circulation, the mind-body connection that Marcia mentioned with the vagus nerve. So it works on your vagal tone, your ability to increase your vagal connection, the connection between mind and body, and also your strength and your overall health and well-being. One of the ways that you can actually, one of the most simple ways to come into your parasympathetic nervous system, so to reduce the overproduction of the cortisol and to bring your stress levels down, is just a breathing meditation. So a breathing meditation to do this would be a breath in and an extended breath out. So we all might try that together. So we're just going to count for a breath in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's extended out breath. If you struggle with an inhale for 4 and an exhale for 6, you can practice an inhale for 3 and an exhale for 5. So, but let's try the 4 and 6 again. So you can close down your eyes, or you can just stare at a single point, and then it's breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you did that for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, if you're in a stressful time, stressful environment, take yourself away, do the slow, steady, extended out breath, slow, steady breathing in. That will absolutely help bringing your stress levels down. With the next slide, there's a couple of yoga poses that I'd like to just show you that anybody can do. You don't need any major flexibility to do some of these poses. So one of them is just shoulder rolls. So shoulder, extending your shoulders back, maybe 5 times. And then extending your shoulders, rolling them forward. We spend so much time at our desk. It's really important to open up the front of your body. The other thing you can do is just neck rolls. And matching the breath to the movement. So inhaling as you go back and exhaling as you come forward. You might do 5 in one direction, and then you might do 5 in the other. But really enjoying that neck roll and loosening up the back of the neck. I often get this tension around the back of my shoulders, and it's a message to me that I'm a bit stressed. So then I take myself away, do a little bit of that breathing, extending the out breath, and just roll my shoulders, roll my neck, and then I'm ready to go back to the desk. I also have a stand-up desk, which you can see me walking around. It's a stand-up desk. So I'm always in that state of movement. So I'm not getting too sedentary in my seat. Another thing to do to come into that relaxation response is opening up the front of the body. So you might lie on the floor and you can just put a block or a book somewhere on between your shoulder blades, lie across it and lie down on the floor and just open up the front of the body. And that's really beautiful. Not only a beautiful stretch, but it opens up the heart, and you can breathe into the heart, and it brings that whole stress level down. Most of the other poses, we're actually going to send them round. I think rather than me sitting on the floor and going through with you now, but we will send them round. Here's one. Each in this handout that we're going to send around with the recording, there are some really simple poses that you can do to stretch out the live nerve down the back of the legs that connects into the vagus nerve. And that's just that one, like sitting on the floor, is just, you know, your legs out straight and you're just doing a forward fold. So stretching into some of those nerves down the back of the leg. So that's really, really important. And coming back to the breathing, I think the good thing about doing a few of those poses that we're going to send around after the webinar is that it prepares the body for a little bit of meditation. So you might do that initial breathing, do some movement, shoulders, neck, stretching out the backs of the legs, and then you might come back to the breath for a few moments. So all that entails is just following the breath. So might close your eyes, follow the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. So it's just concentrating on being aware of your breathing, and just bringing that awareness in can really help to slow you down, bring you into that parasympathetic nervous system. That's the relaxation response. And the last little tip, if you are, is to focus on the 5 main senses. So you might be sitting, you've done your little bit of breathing, you've done a few little warm-up exercises, and then you close your eyes and you focus first on your sense of sight. So you can see the light through your closed eyelids. Then you bring your focus to your ears. What can you hear? Be aware of your sense of breathing, of what you can hear around the room. Then you come to your nose, your sense of smell, following the breath in through the nose and out. What can you smell? Hopefully you can smell some nice essential oils. Then you come to the mouth and you're aware of your tongue in the mouth. If you increase the saliva in your mouth, just by moving your tongue around, you can increase the saliva in your mouth. This also instigates that relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. And the last thing is your overall sense of feeling. So you run through your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of taste, and then just feel how your body is feeling. Feel your clothing against your skin. Feel just how your body is feeling internally, just as an awareness, not to make any judgment on it, and be aware of what you're saying to yourself about how you're feeling. However you're feeling is fine, but just bringing your consciousness to it gives it freedom to just pass through. So running through all of the 5 senses brings you right into your body, and it's called a sense of introspection. So being aware of self. Just try it one time at home, and you might find a certain sense of relaxation come over you. That's new.
Well, thanks, Jane. I can attest. I've just graduated not top student, I would say, but just graduated from Jane. She's got a 6-week meditation course, which I really enjoyed because it taught different kinds of meditation. I've never been that great at meditation. So yeah, one of that 5 senses one, I've actually really quite liked, possibly because I do have nice essential oils smelling around the place, but yeah, so it was an online course. So I'll give, I know you run them fairly regularly, right, Jane? So
3-4 times a year. Yeah.
yeah.
Did anybody have any questions, any quick questions about any of that? Put it in the chat. If you think of anything before we finish, just put it in the chat and I'll answer. I've got the chat, I can see.
Awesome.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, I know that there was a lot that, you know, we've kind of gone through in a whirlwind, and I mean, gut, I could talk for hours on the gut, as you can tell. But I hope that you can see how important gut health is for your overall health. And the thing is that it's never too late to actually take control over it. Yes, it might take years for it to heal. You know, don't expect that it's just going to be an instant. But it's never too late to start that. Your body is designed to heal. So I'm just going to run through, Jane and I've got some options for you, how we can support you in doing that. We've given you a bunch of tips, which obviously you'll get on the replay with this, and then we'll open up for questions as well, in case you do think of anything that you want to ask. So the first thing is I want to invite you guys to an experience where I will personally guide you step by step through a 21-day metabolism and gut reset. And this is what I was referring to before, where we want to eliminate all the inflammatory foods. That's exactly what this program will help you do. So it's about eating delicious, amazing foods, because I give you menus, I give you recipes. You're not going to feel deprived. That will actually help support your gut and while satisfying your taste buds, because I'm a foodie. I had a food business. I like to eat. It's absolutely not a diet. So it's a holistic program that's designed to help you get back to, or to help you build, healthy daily habits while giving your gut some love. So basically, I'll teach you how to detoxify your body in a non-extreme way. So I'm not extreme, using food and other simple lifestyle habits. And I will find ways that are easy for us to all adopt, because remember, I'm just as busy as everybody else is. And I do the programs with you. So going through the program basically gives your body the chance to reset, which is why I've called it a reset, and allows you to get back in the driver's seat when it comes to your food and your gut health. So it empowers you to take back control. So what you would expect to get out of this program, yes, you should identify any foods that could be causing gut inflammation or other symptoms. It's basically going to give you a gentle cleanse. You're going to be able to get through your day with more energy than you've had before, and also energy that's consistent and stable throughout the day. So no more of those mid-afternoon slumps when you want to face plant on your desk. If weight loss is something you're looking for, then you'll probably find that excess weight will start to release. The average on most people is 3 to 5 kilos over the 3 or 4 weeks, without you really having to do very much about that. You'll also find that your mood will improve, or at least it'll become stable. It really does help reduce your stress levels when you start focusing on your gut. The price for that normally is $247. I do have a VIP price discount going on at the moment. You'll get a VIP rate of $197. So I'll actually send that in the email when I send it around to you. So that is until the 30th of September. So if you guys are interested in doing it and you want the cheap rate, then book in the next few days. If you're not sure whether the reset is for you or you want to know more about it, I'm happy to offer a free wellness consult. We can actually talk about any specific health concerns, your particular situation, because we're all different. And as a special gift to everybody who's registered, so even everybody who gets the replay, along with the replay and along with Jane's fabulous handout, I'll be actually sending out my guide to gut health, so a little ebook, and an accompanying gut-friendly food checklist for you. So we talked about foods that were good for your gut. So then Jane, I think, also has something special for you.
Yes. So as I said, meditation really does affect your mood and your gut. So if you send me an email, I'll just put my email in the chat, but you'll also get it in the follow-up information. I can send you a free online meditation class from my studio, so it's set in my studio, and you can practice some meditation just from home in your own time. So I'll just put my email into the chat now.
That's awesome. Thanks. I was going to see if I could pull up the link for, actually I won't be able to because it'll affect our slideshow. Once I stop sharing, I'll, it's probably not too good idea. Once I stop sharing, I'll pop the link for the VIP discount rate in. I know a few of you have already registered, but for everybody else. Awesome. I would definitely recommend that we all should send our email and get the free meditation class. It really does make a huge difference. Like I came into it not kicking and screaming, like I knew it was something I wanted to do, but it's definitely made a difference just sort of trying to practice breath work and meditation each day. So that's pretty much it. All our details are on here. I mean, you can take a screenshot or we're going to send it out anyway in the email. I'll stop sharing so that I can actually grab the link for you. And then any questions, thoughts, comments, anybody want to talk about anything in particular out of the Prezzo, or let's see, what is something quick and easy? Let me get the chat up. Quick and easy for lunch during the week if you're on the go but want to have something. Do you eat while you're on the go, Sophia? Like out in the car, you mean? Like while you're on the go, literally?
Sorry, I needed to unmute. No, it's just more like obviously like last minute options, you know, like going into Coles or Woolworths. I feel like something that you know, I do specifically is like get something that you can put in the microwave that's probably not very good digestively or, you know, for your gut, etc. And I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge salad person. So I guess that question in terms of like what's something that you would recommend in terms of obviously not like a big meal, but something that, yeah.
So I guess if we're talking quick and easy, so I make up it if you've got access, if you're at home, or if you can, you know, have something pre-prepped, I make up like a big batch of brown rice, or I make up a big batch of quinoa, and then I freeze individual servings, like in containers or, you know, freezer bags, whatever you use, like a half cup serving. So I always have those in the freezer. I always have like a tin of tuna or a tin of salmon, good quality, of course. Make sure the cans are BPA free. You know, you want to make sure that they're sustainable, wild caught if it's salmon. But you know, a can of tinned fish, basically. Spinach. I love spinach. So for me, it's really easy. And I literally, those three things. So I'll heat up the rice or the quinoa, whichever one I'm having. I'll warm that up in the microwave first. I might toss the spinach in to heat it a little bit. I don't want to like fully cook it. And then I'll just mix in the salmon and maybe some soy sauce, or tamari if you're not into soy. And that's a really quick, easy lunch that you can have that is totally balanced. So you've got healthy carbs, complex carbs that are going to keep you sustained. You've got spinach or green veg, you know, if you like broccoli, if you like green beans, whatever it might be, any of those you can get pre-cut from Coles so that you can have them in your fridge. I grow my own now, so it's awesome. That's you know, you get your green veg through that. You get with the fish, you're getting some fatty essential fatty acids, healthy fats, protein. It's always important. I always tell my clients, whatever you're going to have, whether it's a snack or a meal, have it balanced. So have a mix of protein, complex healthy carbs, not white carbs, not sugars, things like that, and also healthy fats with that. Is that something that you would potentially eat, like if you don't eat salads?
No, absolutely. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And it's all easy to have in your cupboard.
Yeah, I think I was told a little while ago that brown rice was harder to digest. Is that
Well, so yes and no. So it's less processed. So white rice actually has a lower, higher glycemic index. Gotta get my terminology right. And so when you eat white rice, for example, or white bread or whatever, it basically turns instantly into sugar, into glucose, which is what fuels you. That's your energy. Problem is, most of us aren't running from a woolly mammoth, so we don't need that instant energy like we would have back in the day when we weren't eating, 5 times a day. So when we get that instant burst of energy, that means, yes, it does it turns into energy faster, but brown rice actually sustains you for longer. And in terms of whether or not it digests easier, it just takes longer to get through your system because it's not processed. It's still got the, some of the hull from the rice on it. So you're actually getting the whole grains. There are a whole bunch of different theories about lectins and certain demographics, like the Asians, Japanese, they all eat white rice and they're super healthy from eating white rice, but they've evolved that way. So there's a lot about where we come from. Like if you're from UK, you've been brought up with different food groups than we have. I'm American, so I was brought up with different food groups. So that's something that kind of comes into play when I'm working with people to try and find what works best for you. Actually, where you were brought up, where your family history and your lineage is from actually plays a big part in that. So yeah, I think brown rice is one that if you find that some people don't like brown rice, they can find it a little heavy, then quinoa would be my next recommendation, but definitely not white rice.
okay? Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Any other questions? I'm just getting the link for you guys for the reset. Pop that in the chat. Find where to actually type it into my chat. I'm trying to find my other way. All right.
Just while Marcia's finding out, one thing about brown rice that I think is important is that it's cooked for long enough. If you don't buy the ones from the supermarket that can go in the microwave, if you're cooking it at home, you need to make sure that you really do cook it, because when it's not fully cooked, that's when it can be really not helpful in your gut.
Yeah, because then you've got all of those whole grains and the sheaths that are still on the rice grains don't digest as easily. So yeah, really good point, Jane. It does take a lot longer. I think there's one brand that I found at Coles. I'm not sure if it's at Woolies, that is it's actually Australian rice and it's brown rice, but it cooks faster. I'll have to pull out, I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, it definitely cooks a little bit quicker, but usually it'll take 25, 30 minutes, I guess. I do it in the microwave, so I'm all about quick and easy hacks. But yeah, so hopefully that helps, Sophia.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, well, I'm conscious it's 8:07 my time, and Andrew, it'll be even later for you, I imagine. So any questions, comments, anything else? Otherwise, we'll close it off and I'll send out the replay probably tomorrow.
No, that was good. Thanks.
Awesome. Hope you found it
Yeah,
useful.
thank you both. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.